Hello world and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ricardo Miguel. My channel is called 11th Tempest, ET for short. No, it's not extraterrestrial. One might say, oh, he's an alien. I'm not going to agree nor disagree with that. After all, yes, I'm an alien. I'm a Portuguese man in England. Isn't that a stinger? Um, I'm going to be here talking about my theory that disapproves quantum entanglement. Um, no, I don't have a PhD in physics. That doesn't mean I can't defend my theory. Um, I'm also Portuguese, as I stated before. There's going to be a lot of cuts in the video due to some language barriers or stutters. So enough talking about me. Let's go to what's interesting. So the theory that I'm defending today, I'd like to call it quantum relevancy. And it defends classic mechanics all the way. The studies are titled Finding Zero, and finding the zero is what's in conflict with quantum entanglement, and obviously it's the theory that I'm defending. So let's make it interesting. There's a experiment in quantum entanglement theory, which is the coin game called heads or tails. For this game, I'm gonna use a coin from the Royal Mint of the United Kingdom. It's called Britannia. It's 1 ounce, 1 troy ounce silver bullion, which you can find all the information online. Obviously, I'm not being sponsored. If you want to try the experiment yourself, like I did, just go grab yourself one. So the experiment that we are going to be doing today, to explain it better, it's going to be the game called heads or tails. But since I'm Portuguese, I'm going to be using the term face or crown, because that's how we play the game in Portugal. Obviously, I don't know who's watching. You probably have another way of saying the game. So translating it from Portuguese to English, face or crown, sounds like a challenge or threat. That's why I'm going to use the term face or crown. After all, I'm going against 3 Nobel laureates that won the Nobel Prize of Physics last year. So, face or crown. The game is simple. So, let's use the term G for the game. Face for heads and crown for tails. And there's only 2 outcomes on the game. So, it's a 50-50% chance of being each. And still, we play with a 3-dimensional object, and we don't consider the coin landing on the side as a variable. For that, I'm going to be calling Z, because that's where we're going to find the zero. Or, speaking of entanglement, this is where it's relative. So, before I continue working these equations, it's time to talk about the outcomes and the variables that may come out of this equation. The camera is going to point out to a table where I'm going to show you the coin and its respective outcomes. See you in a bit. Hello and welcome back. Now we're going to be talking about the 4 different outcomes to this game, which I'm going to represent them with plus or minus. And the 4 different outcomes are going to be the following: plus, minus, plus, plus, minus, minus, and minus, plus. As you can see, there are 4 different outcomes, but we only have 3 dimensions on the coin. So these 2 are going to be the side of the coin, or in other words, these are the outcomes when the coin lands on its side. And for that, on our equation, we called it Z. This outcome, plus plus, I'm going to call it heads, or in our equation is represented with an F. This outcome, it's going to be tails, which in our equation we represented with a C for face or crown. So if seeing is believing, here's the coin. We need to visualize these three outcomes. Even though it's four, it's only going to be three. At this point, some cultures are going to tell me off because I'm going to mark a cross in the wrong place, and according to the Spanish culture, la cruz is tails, but I'm going to mark the cross or the plus symbol on heads. Of course, unfortunately, this is our late queen. I don't intend to send any misguided messages, so in a good bad way, since my culture is close to the Spanish one, it means vaya con Dios or va con Dios. So let's continue. I'm gonna mark the queen's head with a cross or face, and tails with a minus. Obviously, I'm not going to mark the side of the coin. The side of the coin, we're going to do something differently later on, just to visualize these three outcomes. So, seeing is believing. Let's show you. So as you can see, the coin is standing on its side. So for the case, if we toss the coin and it landed straight up, this is what would have happened. As you can see, we have these two different outcomes, which is a matter of visualization, or in other words, rotation. Tails is on this side, so let's mark it like this. From this point of view, tails is on this side and heads is on this side. So it represents this way. But if you take it from this side, it's going to be plus on this side and minus on this side. So in another way of putting it into perspective, it's going to be the same as asking you this. Is this a 6 or a 9? Millennials are going to say, haha, made you look. So what we are going to do to find its true zero, that's going to come in disagreement with the quantum entanglement theory on superpositioning. We are going to do a simple experiment. Obviously, this is a silver bullion. I want to keep the value of the coin, but there's two or more ways of doing it. What I'm going to do is add some hot glue on the side to create a little bit of volume that the coin will always fall on its side, making it unable to be making it unstable enough to always fall on its side. No, it's not superpositioning. In other words, it's true zero. You can also do this by filing the edge of the coin into a spherical shape, because when you toss the coin will balance to fall. So let's do this. It's time to go get the arsenal. So here we are. This is my weapon of choice. Please don't tell the police I have a gun, and also I'm not afraid to use it. This is a hot glue gun. What we're going to be doing here, once again, explaining the experiment, we're going to be adding hot glue to the edge of the coin, making it unstable, and obviously it's going to be a little bit bouncy because the glue itself has got elastic properties, and falling on its side. So what we're gonna do is slowly add the hot glue. Sorry if this process is boring. I'm waiting for the hot glue gun to heat up. I might do a simple cut to accelerate the process. So here we are. So hot enough. So let's add on the glue slowly. And here we are. Now I can say the coin is unstable enough and will never fall on its side. So it's time to go back to the whiteboard. Hello again, and it's time to work our equation. As stated before, Z is in a stable position, which I call true zero. Or in other words, Z equals 0. So having this said, how am I supposed to work this equation if I need to exchange Z for 0? I know what most of you are going to say, so I'm going to make a little cut.
You know, my child, it doesn't make any sense multiplying or dividing something by 0. It's simply gonna be equal to 0. So why bother putting the 0 in the equation?
Which makes me come to the conclusion I'm going to be fighting the whole mathematical community across the world, because I came to the conclusion that I found a second glitch. I'm going to be explaining what's a glitch. Let me just clear the board. I'm just going to put the equation on top, which is G equals F or C dividing by 2 times Z. So what is a glitch? A glitch is an error or bug that in a system that a user can use for his own benefit. So which glitch is this? A glitch is an error or a bug in a system that a user can use for his own benefit. So, what glitch number 2 am I talking about? That glitch is an error that appears in every single calculator across the world, which is going to be the following. So, what does this error actually mean? To my personal view, it's a normal error since calculators are programmed to give you one solution, whilst we are going to have two. How does this work? So, electronically speaking, the calculator is programmed to work this equation and to give you one solution. We are going to have two, hence the error. That's why I'm going to use it, and to explain you my reasoning, I'm going to have to work the language so you can kind of understand how we are actually meant to operate this equation. It's going to be something like this. So let's keep this on the side and let's work the language. What happens when one person says it is cold, it is negative 0 degrees Celsius? Or when one person states it is cold, it is 0 degrees Celsius. So we have a negative point of view and a positive point of view. Linguistic teachers are going to say, yes, it's correct to state either, but the first option is going to be a redundancy. So it's irrelevant to say negative. Another example I'm going to give with an everyday usage, which is currency. For example, one person stated, I have 0 debt. And one person said, I have 0 or no money. So when one person states, I have no debt, that's a positive 0. When a person says, I have no money, that's a negative statement. So in order to continue my equation, I'm going to have to come with an agreement that stating that z is 0, it's the same, or stating that z equals true 0, it's the same as saying that z is superior or equal to -1 or minus or equal to 1. Having this said, I'm going to put this on the side and I'm going to work the two equations. So z In order to continue this equation, the function of the game, we need to open 1 minus 1 which is equivalent to a positive 1 so this equation is going to be equal to minus f minus c divided by 2, which is equivalent to f or c divided by 2. And as you can see, I'm stating that the equations are equivalent even though they are different. How can I explain this? The explanation is simple. So as we are dealing with a three-dimensional object, the negative side of heads is tails. So I can exchange this equation for C. The negative side of tail is heads. And as you can see, the equations are equivalent, even though they're not the same. So how can I actually state that the coin has a negative side? Simple. Let's just look at the coin. Gonna move to the table. See you in a bit. So here we are again, and I'm gonna explain the reasoning behind the negative side of the equation that brings the error to the calculators. So the reasoning is simple. As I stated before, the side of the coin, it's in what I'd like to call its true zero, or in other words, the coin is unstable enough to never fall on its side again. So let's work the reasoning behind the negative side. So as you can see, it's still a three-dimensional object. And I'm gonna mark this top just over the crown. Which I'm gonna call it north. I'm also gonna mark in red what I'm gonna call south. So what's the positive side of the equation? The positive side of the equation is going to be relative to the coin's rotation. So if I can say that this movement clockwise is going to be the positive, and the movement anti-clockwise is going to be negative. So what's the reasoning behind this? Simple. When we move the coin clockwise, it still outcomes when the coin lands on heads. And when we invert the coin, what do you think happens to south and north? Is this still north as we marked it as black? Or does it invert as well, hence having the negative side? The reasoning is simple. North becomes south and south becomes north. Why is that? When we change the coin in its position, we converted it into heads inverted side, which is tails. So why doesn't the coin keep in this position of north and south? The reason is behind Z. As we stated before, Z moving clockwise is positive and anti-clockwise is negative. Therefore, when we invert the sides, Z inverts also. This red mark becomes north for tails and the black mark becomes south for tails. The best way you can actually visualize this is using a clock and turning it against the mirror, and you'll see the effect going on. I'm actually going to make the experiment. I'll see you in a bit. So as you can see here, we have a GIF. You can search it on Google. We have a GIF of a clock going clockwise, and when we turn it into the mirror, what happens? It becomes its inverted state. So what does this mean in the game? It means we're gonna have a probability of minus 50% and a probability of plus 50%. But how does this actually work? So let's take this position in consideration. So the queen is facing to the right, north is on north and south is on south. And let's say the coin lands like this. This landing is going to have a true negative, which is the other 50%. So obviously, I've got a 99.29% chance of tossing the coin, and it will always land on a different position. So in other words, I can literally dedicate the rest of my life of being a tosser, and the coin will never fall in the position that I want. So I'm gonna use the remaining 0.71% to show you how it works, which is the coin landing like this. So we have its true negative, and as you can see, the coin lands in the same position. Doing the maths, we come to the conclusion that this game has a probability of approximately 49.29% with a margin of error of approximately 0.71%. How does this experiment disapproves quantum entanglement? It's simple. I can safely say that the experiments conducted with the electrons were the equivalent to the game head or tails. The electrons would only fall on the negative or plus side, coming to a 50% on the experiment. So, to the professors that won the Nobel Prize, would you please care to explain why your margin of error is over 50% and not less? Because I certainly can't explain the margin of error on this experiment, and also disapproving your theory. The question you may ask now is how? It's simple. So the margin of error is something we call in chemistry that's called a free electron or loose electron. So let's take a hypothetical experiment into consideration. Let's let's say we have the atom with two paired electrons, and we excite them enough to leave their orbit. And we are able to contain this electron in a stable environment in its unstable form. I'm going to show you on the table, just bear with me 1 second. So let's say we are able to excite both of the electrons out of orbit. We are able to contain them in a jar in their unstable form in a stable environment. I know what you're gonna say. I'm gonna make a quick cut.
And here we are again. You know, my child, this experiment is virtually impossible because it violates the laws of thermodynamics. So if we put the electron in that state, it will find its entropy and gain balance once again.
Isn't that funny how the first law of thermodynamics itself can explain the natural phenomenon behind lightnings, where energy is created somewhere in the sky and it gets discharged on the ground or destroyed. So continuing to this project, as Professor Crazy over there said, if we put these two electrons in the jars and we send them to different locations across the world, for example, I'm in the UK, I can send this one to New Zealand and this one to Canada. So what's going to happen to them when we open the jar and they release the energy? They are going to try to find their entropy or a new pair and find balance once again. Whilst this one might still be in a jar until it gets opened and finds a new pair as well. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in knowing about the glitch number 1, just go to the channel page, like and subscribe, and once again, please prove me I'm wrong so I can get my prize sooner.